Right then, today we mean business. I've got my gloves on, ready for action. A lot of it I'm going to aim it more at what you can do yourself at home. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, and it's going to do two things. It's going to sort of show you what is done on a service when we do a caravan service, but it's also going to give you hints and tips of what you can do yourself mid-service, so sort of 6 months in, just little checks that you can do yourself, and then you'll be all ready for the next service when it comes around to time to having that done. I've got my service sheet here, so this is what we do when we do a caravan annual service check, basically, for the approved workshop. So very first on our chassis and running gear, and we're going to do this as two-part video really, where we do all the outside bits and pieces of the caravan, and again, as I said, a lot of it I'm going to aim it more at what you can do yourself at home, just little checks, and then we'll do another video at a different time. I don't think we're going to have time today, but then we'll do another one doing inside checks and sort of show you what you can do. Again, it's not to replace a service, it's just things that you can do yourself in the interim, and just little checks that you can make sure is going all good. So number one on our list here, we've got our coupling head. Now what we mean by coupling head is where we hitch up to the car. Now whether it's a Alco chassis or a Windhoff chassis or a BPW, even not a Windhoff, it'll be a Windhoff hitch head, but depending on what chassis it is, the checks are going to be very, very similar. We've got the Alco here because that is just the more standard type of chassis that's out there. There's far fewer BPW than there is Alco. But what we're going to do on our hitch head is we're actually going to put our tow ball into here and then check our pads. So we've got little brake pads fitted within this head, and as we pull the hitch down, where it starts to grip onto our tow ball, is going to tell us whether we need to replace the pads in here or not. Now basically we've got a little indicator on the side here that goes from green to red, and the little arrows are going to point to part of that window. Now up this top section is basically in the green. It's worn off on this one and might be the same on yours if it's a slightly older caravan, and then you'll see that we can just see a faint line of the red. So when we actually put this handle down and it starts to grip onto our tow ball, we really want to be in this top third or the first quarter of our little indicator here where we're gripping onto the ball. If when we try and grip onto the ball this handle goes right the way down and into this black or into the red section, it basically means that we need to replace our little pads in the side here. I'm not going to do a video today because I'm going to try and cover quite a few different things, but we might do little individual videos on how to actually change these pads over and do other things like that. But to try and give you a basic check that you can do yourself, I'm just going to try and get through as much as possible. Next thing on our hitch head, we need to check to see whether we've got any movement. And when I say movement, what I basically mean is, if we've got all the legs down it's a little bit easier, but we've got a little bit of movement in our drawbar here. So in the shaft that comes through on our drawbar, we've just got a very, very slight little bit of rocking on there. As I say, if you've got all legs down on the caravan and the caravan's secure, it's a little bit easier to feel. But literally putting your hand underneath the front here and just giving it a little bit of rock, you'll see that there's a slight little bit of movement in this section here. And what is causing that is basically a lack of lubrication on our grease nipples. So just underneath of our head here, there's a grease nipple that's right up the very front. I'll see whether I can get the camera up there. So hopefully you might just be able to see right up here where I've got my finger, just at the side of this springy looking thing here. We've got a grease nipple, literally right up the very top, located just on that side. So that is the grease nipple that will take out this little bit of rock within that hitch. If it's an older caravan like this one here, we'll have exactly the same, but we've got the grease nipples actually located on the top, so you might be able to see that little bit of rock. And again, all what we need to do is just basically grease these up, and that is then just going to take out that little bit of rock in there, and again it will just keep our drill bar all nicely greased up and a lot better for when we're using it. And again, when we do a service, that's what we're going to be greasing up in there. We need to make sure that we get no grease within where we put the tow ball, because obviously when it's got a stabilised hitch head like this, it's supposed to be completely grease free. Next up is our coupling head Gator. So again, we just want to make sure that our Gator here is actually fitted properly. You'll see that we've moved away from up the front here, so we just want to make sure that this is actually fitted incorrectly. It's fitted at the back, so it's not coming off at the back, and then we can actually secure this up the front here as well, so that when this moves backwards and forwards, it's not going to get any grit and dirt and bits and pieces in there. On our hitch, once we've lubricated our points up underneath of here, what we can also then do is just check our overrun device. And what we're going to basically do is make sure the handbrake is on and then push our hitch head back in. And what we should find is with just a little bit of force, it should go back in and then it should come out nice and easily as it is now. And again, that just makes sure that our actual damper that's built into here is working and it is doing as correctly as it should. And again, just with lubricating that up, that will make that work a little bit easier and then make our test that little bit easier also. Next along, we've got our breakaway cable. So again, what we want to be making sure that our breakaway cable is coming through the little loop here. It's then secured correctly onto the bottom of the handbrake, and then all along our cable, we want to make sure that there's no big nasty cuts or breaks or any damage to our actual cable itself. And again, if there is any damage or breaks on there, we can just replace that. And again, it's normally a case of cutting the little bracket off here. The majority of the new ones, they come with a little carabiner clip on there, and you just put them on and off with a little carabiner clip, and it's a lot easier then to replace them in the future also. We've then got our corner steadies, so again, something that we can do at home is put our legs down, so either with the winding handle, or if you use a drill, put them actually down. So we're just going to put the leg down, and then literally we can grease or lubricate where we put our winder onto any points either side, and then our actual bar here. I'm not being very accurate with my spraying, unfortunately. You can, with a light grease, just grease up but to be fair, they'll do that on the proper service. So just with a little bit of WD as an intermediate sort of service, if you've got a stiff leg on there and you just want to lubricate it, just make it a little bit easier. Just in between time, just use a little bit of WD. Again, just working that up and down a few times, it does actually work a lot better doing it with the drill. It just gets obviously a little bit quicker up and down, but you'll tell straight away just a little bit of WD what a difference that'll make to the leg on there. Look what's next on the list then. Spare wheel carry. Now that's a difficult one to do on your own, to be honest with you. We have got a video that we did on the spare wheel carrier before, and I'll put a little link onto that, so if it's the actual spare carrier getting that on and off and just checking that, we'll put the little link onto that one. Jockey wheel next. Now again, just making sure that the jockey wheel's going up nice and easily. Now if it's quite tricky and quite stiff to go up and down, what you can do is put the front legs down, and then we can remove this and actually grease the shaft. So to do that, leg back down. Just put this leg back down. Now to actually remove this jockey wheel, we'll start by undoing the pin so we've got this free movement then. And then it's just literally unwind the wheel out of there. And then you'll see in a second it will all fall apart and end up on the floor. Which again, if we've got a gravel or a mucky area, you just want to make sure that it doesn't fall down fully and end up with a load of gravel within the shaft. And basically what we want to do is just put a little bit of lubrication or a little bit more grease down our hole there. Can you grab the WD and just give that a spray for me? Yeah. Now whatever you do, don't try and tickle me.
Right in the hole, yeah?
Yeah. Ooh. Oh, steady.
Oh,
so again, that's perfect. And then it's literally just lining that back up. And just go back opposite way. Again, if you've raised the Caravan up slightly, it's a lot easier to have that. All that we just need is just that extra little bit of length on there, so that we can do it like that. And that's the easiest way to do that jockey wheel without having to take the complete mechanism out. If you do take this completely out the top, you've just got to be careful. Underneath here there's a little pin that can fall out, so that's hence why I've tried to do it there, where I've left the top part of the shaft located, and it's just then the bottom part comes out and just makes that a lot easier, and it just stops any issues. We can then tighten that back up, take the weight of the Caravan, and then take our front legs back up again, and we're ready to go then. Next along we've got our chassis. So what we normally do is when we get it up on the lift in our workshops, we then can check all the chassis rails. So it's something, there's no real moving part, so it's not something that you really need to do on the intermediate side of things. We've then got a braking system. Now when we do a full service, we'll take all the wheels, hubs, brakes, bearings, everything, and check that all through, which obviously as an intermediate thing it's not something that you're going to need to do. But what you can do, basically check whether our braking system is set up correctly and whether we need any adjustment on our brakes. And it probably needs two of you in all fairness, and it's probably easier to do this on a nice flat surface rather than trying to do it on a hill or a slope backwards, etc. So once we've got it onto some nice level ground, we've got all the legs up, and all that we're basically going to do is take the handbrake off and then move the Caravan very slightly forwards. As we're moving forwards, we're going to pop our handbrake on and just make sure now that the Caravan is locked up on both sides coming forwards. And so by pulling it both sides, left and right, that is basically telling us that our brakes on our left and right hand side are correct. The very final test now to make sure that our braking system is correct is actually going backwards, and what you'll notice is that I can push it backwards very, very slightly if the brakes are correct, and then the handbrake will come up. So on the right hand side and on the left hand side, and there'll be that very slight little bit of movement backwards, and you'll notice that as I did that, the handbrake just came up that little bit extra and then locked that up so it won't go backwards. And what you'll notice is if you ever take the Caravan off a slight rolling backwards slope, the Caravan will actually put your handbrake on and the Caravan will roll back very, very slightly, and the handbrake will come up and then stop the Caravan. And the reason that it does that is with the braking system, for when you reverse, there's a little system on the brakes that will come off as you're reversing, but it'll also then just wait for the handbrake to come right fully up before it locks those brakes off going backwards. So again, that is just how we can just do a quick check just to make sure that our brake setup is correct. If we find that when we push that backwards we can push it as far backwards as we can forwards without the handbrake on, then again it is just an issue with the setup and we just need to adjust those brakes. Next up on our list we've got our wheels and tyres. Now what we can do on our tyres is just give them a check, just make sure that there's no cracking on there, and then also you should be able to find a little box that looks a little bit like this just here, and I think we've got 39.20. So that what that is saying is that we've got these tyres were made week 39 of 2020, so we know these tyres are only about 2 years old, if that. So we shouldn't have any issues, but literally just giving them a good check through, making sure there's no visual signs of any cracking or anything like that, and that will sort of just make sure that our tyres are in good condition, especially after the winter when they've sat there for a while. Or if you've had a flat tyre and you've not noticed it, again, it's really important then, once we get that back up to pressure, just going round it and just making sure there's definitely no cracks on there. The other thing then is we're going to want to just check our wheel nut torque. So as a general rule, alloy wheels are going to be between 110 to 130 Newton meters is the torque, and we want to work in an opposite fashion when we do these up. So you want to just literally do one opposite, and that is then just going to make sure that they're torqued up correctly. If you've got steel wheels, again, as a general rule, it's about 88 Newton meters is what we're going to make sure that these are torqued up to. But again, just double checking your user handbook for the steel wheel or the alloy wheel torque setting. Finally then, on our wheels and tyres is our pressure. So we're going to want to check our tyre pressure. Now, a lot of the newer vans on our little weight plate will have a little indicator there just letting us know what the pressure should be. If not, we'll put a little link in the description of where and how you can actually check a website for Tyre Safe, where you can put in your tyre size, the weight of your caravan, how many axles that you've got, and that will actually give you a tyre pressure of what you should set these tyres to also. So we've checked our hitch, we've done our legs, we've done a quick little brake check. Next thing then really is just connecting up to our car and checking our lights. So literally just connecting up to our vehicle, check all of our brake lights, all of our running lights, and that is sort of wrapping up doing our little checks that we can do at home, like a little mini chassis service basically. And it just makes sure that then everything is okay, everything's all set up. You know then that it's had an intermediate service really, and it's just little checks that you can do. Even if it's just trying to find something to get away from the wife for a couple of hours and go and hide, hopefully I'll give you a little excuse there just to get away for a while. Thanks for watching. I'm Mark at the Caravan Place.